Chapter 4 The City of Light. The road ahead is long. The realm of Fabel isn't really close together. A lot of it remains unexplored by adventurers. When you're not in a major settlement like a town or a kingdom, seems as if though the prairies stretch on into nothingness. Grass dances in the wind, light whispers onto the field as the sun sets over our adventurers. Fortunately, they had set up camp just as the sky began to darken. It was a regular camp out for them. Jericho was doing the craft work on the fire and spit roast. Prime had furled out his tent from his pocket. Gorch was off catching some fish for them to eat. Sapphics would usually be doing no work. He was above working. However, right now, he's not doing nothing alone. The team had decided for John to rest and conserve his strength, seeing as he is no longer had magic to keep himself running. John and Sapphics were sat next to each other. Both, however, happened to be writing. Nothing too interesting on the surface. Sapphics pauses for a beat, then clears his throat. Well, Jonathan, if it's no harm, I'd like to ask how you're still perfectly fine with that magic. John chuckles, snapping his journal shut and tossing it behind them. Both him and Sapphics watch as it hits the ground a few feet away unceremoniously. Well, I wouldn't say perfectly fine, just managing. Got so used to having magic to help me, I nearly forgot what it was like to be human. Even back then, I didn't have magic originally. I had my connection to the weave. I'm just back to good old John. So you're just a regular human, no abilities? Sapphic seemed almost concerned with his question. It's uncharacteristic of him. John, however, in return, gives him a playful punch on the shoulder. Australian! Ain't nothing normal about that. Give me a ring of pure blood at all these spiders and I'll beat 'em all. Yes, ever so lively, John. Sapphic smirked as he went back to writing in his own journal. Silence filled the air as they sat there, not interacting. Eventually, John cleared his throat this time. So, I haven't seen you write much before. What's it about now? Sapphic looked over at John, surprised. Oh, this, I write it all the time. It's my... Sapphic takes a sudden pause, thinking he shouldn't use the term manifesto around the most powerful freedom fighter he knows. My autobiography, about my life and rise to fame. John chuckled. Nice. I always knew famous folk like you had to have those autobiography things. What about you, Jonathan? What were you writing? John got up and grabbed his journal, bringing it back to Sapphics. My journal? Person is important, yet stories that make them are tenfold. When you've lived as long as me, gone on as many adventures as me, it's hard to forget things. Can use this to look back on everything that made me who I am. John looked off in the distance for a moment before grabbing Sapphics' journal, setting it down, and he put his own journal into Sapphics' hands. What? Sapphics, of course, looked confused. Well, I was running out of space in there. I should start a new one. Plus, writing helps me remember, so right now I don't need to look back on it. I can tell you want to learn about me. That's the best first step. Before Sapphics could reply, John stood up. At around that time, Gorch had come back with a big haul. Heroes around the fire, sharing stories, no matter if they're real or fiction. Sapphics, getting a little bored, opened up the first few pages of John's journal. The first few pages were all just titles John had been giving over his life. There had to be over hundreds. This would take a while. In the morning, the team packed up camp and set off for Sparkson once more. On this day of travel, it was very clear that they were getting close. The city was obvious to see, not to mention how the prairies seemed to die out as they got closer. The buildings were tall, lights shone all around. The traditional people stayed in other towns. The innovators moved to Sparkson. It was indeed like other cities John had seen. Eventually, they crossed the vital line that marked where wilderness ends and settlement begins. Sparkson was nothing like other towns they'd been to. Jericho marveled at the architecture and design, while Sapphics began to think of how he could take some of this tech as his own. Gordon and Prime both felt queasy at the sight of the big city, however, for different reasons. This is the farthest from nature Gorch has ever been, and Prime was never a big fan of looming buildings. Alright, guys, Prime said, deciding to be the first one to speak up. This is the place we get information. We need to search and not get distracted. Almost ironically, Gorch calls out to the rest of them, "Oh, look, Vendus!" With that, no chain could hold Gorch down from browsing tchotchkes and trinkets. "I suppose he'll need funding and supervision." Safik sighed out, following Gorch. Prime blinked, sighing too. "Two down, three left. We can stay on track, right, guys?" Jericho waved a large hand. "I apologize, gentlemen, but there's too much to discover in this place. I may get distracted." Just then, John speaks up. "Well, I can go with Jericho, to keep him on track." Now Jericho and John are gone too. Prime looked around the crowded city anxiously. Four down? Just me on task? I can get some information. I can. There's probably some information at that ice cream cart over there. Prime chuckled, giving into his sins of gluttony. Now nobody was on track. It was a long day. Gorch and Sapphics went all to the little shops they could find. Gorch ended up with more trinkets than he could comprehend. It was absurd. Jericho and John looked around, asking not about what they're after, but about how the city ran. Conversations were constantly on, back and forth of, how does your sign outside glow? It's neon. Noble gases light up when powered. And how do you get it in those little tubes? Time went on, and Gorch and Sapphics found a fine restaurant to sit at, while they looked for everyone else. Of course, while there, they should order food. Sapphics decides on a steak dinner, but Gorch, not understanding the concept of fine dining, looks at the menu and sees it has no pictures, and asks for the biggest fish they have. They don't accommodate at first, but when Sapphics tips 500%, the waiter changes his tone easily. The food comes out. Sapphics tries to stay elegant and silent through the whole meal, but Gorch speaks up, even while he's eating. "So, you and John, huh? You like him?" Sapphics nearly chokes on his food, looking over at Gorch. "Well, I never! You don't simply bring that up over dinner, Gorch. However, to answer your question, he's a great ally, and I feel we all like him in some ways." "Just as much as you, Sapphire," Gorch confidently claims. "This conversation is done now," Sapphic states, going back to his food. On the other side of the city, Prime had just ordered a deluxe sundae from the ice cream cart. It's pretty pricey, but also delicious. He sits on a nearby bench while he enjoys his food. Prime almost stops when he hears a familiar voice ordering from the ice cream cart too. He doesn't stop though. It doesn't bother him. "Two scoops, one vanilla, one chocolate, and do you do pet bowls? A pet bowl of vanilla with peanuts on it." The man then sits next to Prime. Prime couldn't care less. However, something the man said shocked him. It was simple. Just a few words. "Here's your treat, Clyde." Prime's eyes widened as he shot daggers over to whoever he thought was next to him. He was right. Wearing extravagant robes and armor, otherworldly eyes, there was none other than Calgon. "You fiend! You're here to ambush me while I'm unprepared!" Calgon looked over and laughed slightly. "Yes, I suppose so. However, Clyde got hungry. So if we can just enjoy our treat, I'll let you go for now." Prime looked a little suspicious, but took another small bite of his sundae. Prime's free hand rested in his pocket, ready to pull something out if needed. However, Calgon never struck. He just enjoyed ice cream with his guinea pig. "So," Prime suspiciously said, "how's it going with the Harbingers for you?" "I suppose we're at the point where we share our dastardly plans, correct?" "I guess." "Well, I tried with Alanic. He was rather rude, but I told him to find me if he had a change of heart. I heard he got the Weaver's power," Calgon explained, making a few more licks of ice cream. "Really? That's all? I expect you to be farther along by now. We're here because there's information on a Harbinger of Death." "No, there is! Thank you for that information. I'll go find it." With that, Calgon disappeared into strands in the air. "Oh!" Prime held himself back. He didn't want to swear. God wouldn't like it. Prime stood up, having finished his sundae. He starts walking, then bumps into someone. "Hey, watch where you're going!" Prime calls out. "Yo, sorry. Hey, are you one of them shrine skaters, ain't you?" The man asked, sounding chipper. "A shine whatcha? Sorry, never heard of it in my life." "You ain't? You should get into it. There's a tournament tomorrow, and the winner gets one thing from Mr. Bearthorn's collection. Lots of great stuff. Treasure, magic stuff, old documents, anything you want." And apart at old documents, Prime's face contorted into one of surprise. "Well, what is shine skating, if you don't mind me asking?" "It's a newfangled sport great here in Sparkson. Race scrape motes of pure light on their feet and race around track. But there's a random spell scroll that acts as boost or hinder the blades and only ends when one racer is left skating. Prime tried to take this all in, however, he was taking a bit too long, so the old man of plot convenience decided to take his leave. Eventually, after everyone's little adventures, they met up back to share their findings. Apparently, the science here are made of an element called neon. How fascinating! Jericho hollered out, giving a nice chortle. Next was Gorch's team. All he had to say was, "There's a lot of trinket people here, and they're fishes to die for." After a bit of silence from everyone, John spoke up. Wait, did anyone actually get any information? I did, Prime spoke up, raising his hand. What, at the ice cream cart? Sapphic snickered, making Prime seem like a fool. Yes! No, well, it wasn't from the ice cream cart, but it was near the ice cream cart. Some old man told me about a sport called shine skating, and there's a tournament tomorrow. Whoever's hosting it, Barathorn, I think his name was, is letting the winner choose anything from his collection of artifacts. And I think that's where we can start looking. But unfortunately, Calgon is also actively looking. Tried to ambush me, but I fought him off valiantly. Prime goes on for a bit about all he found, but in the end, everyone looks impressed. Even Sapphic speaks up about Prime's story. Well, I'm rather proud to hear you didn't get distracted by the ice cream cart, then enjoyed a sweet treat with our enemy, then accidentally spilled our plan, ran into an old man, then ditched him to see us. That was oddly specific, Sapphic. I would never, Prime hesitantly says, looking off to the side, beginning to sweat a bit. Gorch steps in to relieve some tension then. Yeah, just like the time you definitely didn't kill that person's dog in the woods. That you didn't crash your boyfriend's car into a tree. Prime just glared at Gorch, but said nothing. They all started to make their way around the city to where the shine skating thing took place. Didn't take long considering there was a massive coliseum. That's where it seems like goes on. Jericho elbows Sapphic, giggling a little bit. Oh, what a big coliseum, should I say? A hippodrome. Jericho, that joke sucked ass, Sapphic said, staring up at Jericho. They continued in, seeing a front desk. Naturally, they approached. The desk man called out in a voice rivaling that of a talk show host. New competitors! Have you come to sign up for the tournament? We'll still have a few spots left. John walked up, put his hand on the desk, and replied to the man. Aye, we're joining. No! Sorry, one person per team in this tournament. Rules are rules. Ah, so who should it be? We'll all go ups and downs. John contemplated, turning back to the group. That's when Prime stepped up, put both hands down on the desk. I'm signing up. I have a rather natural connection to the light, so it should be easy for me. Yeah, all right. What's your name, kid? The man grinned, holding up a pen and a clipboard. Prime. No, 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 the man recoiled, sighing. Your stage name. Something to get fans riled up. Prime thought for a bit before grinning. There's only one thing I can think of. It's a bit something that means a lot to me, even if it's a bit silly. Spill the beans, kids. I don't got all day. Prime hesitated a bit. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.